Here we go.
It turns out fantasy has a shelf life. In 2018, as Victoria's Secret prepped its annual parade of diamond-encrusted bras and supermodels, Chief Marketing Officer Ed Razek confidently dismissed the idea of including plus-size or transgender models. "No, I don't think we should, because the show is a fantasy," he said. A few years later, that fantasy came crashing down, along with the brand's cultural relevance. The once mighty lingerie empire, famed for its bombastic fashion show and glossy angels, was undone by the very ideals it long ignored. This is the story of how Victoria's Secret fell from lingerie royalty to corporate cautionary tale, complete with rhinestone wings, boardroom scandals, culture wars, and a rebrand that might as well have been an email.
They love the whole lifestyle. They enter a fantasy world. So we're bringing everything to life so they can actually see that Victoria's Secret has a fall fashion collection.
Victoria's Secret began in 1977 as a cozy San Francisco boutique created to make men feel less awkward buying lingerie, a noble mission perhaps, but one that would spiral into something far less charming. After retail mogul Les Wexner acquired the brand in the 1980s, it exploded into a nationwide juggernaut of push-up bras, pink striped shopping bags, and mall ubiquity. By the early 1990s, Victoria's Secret had ballooned to over 350 stores and $1 billion in annual sales, cementing its place as the de facto underwear dealer to suburban America. But it wasn't just about bras and panties, it was about creating the image. In 1995, the Victoria's Secret fashion show launched, turning into a glitzy, made-for-TV spectacle that felt like Las Vegas crossed with a shampoo commercial. It aired every holiday season, with angels strutting under spotlights, flanked by musical guests, glitter cannons, and millions of viewers watching in awe or envy. Supermodels like Tyra Banks, Gisele Bündchen, and Heidi Klum became household names not just for their beauty, but for their wings. Literal wings. The annual fantasy bra, crusted with diamonds and priced in the millions, was more mythical than marketable. Still, the show worked. It sold sex appeal as empowerment, fantasy as aspiration. For a while, Victoria's Secret didn't just reflect the culture, it helped shape it. It defined what was sexy, desirable, and worth chasing, even if the reality was airbrushed and impossible. But by the mid-2010s, the tides were turning. Consumer tastes were shifting toward comfort, inclusivity, and actual representation. And Victoria's Secret? Still doing its greatest hits from 2004. When the rest of the world moved on to athleisure, body positivity, and a wider range of bodies, VS clung to its fantasy land. The catalog was quietly retired in 2016, sales started slipping, and that once bulletproof image starting to fray, feather by feather, bra strap by bra strap. Victoria's Secret didn't implode all at once. It eroded in a series of controversies that read like a laundry list of what not to do in modern retail. The brand spent decades selling an almost caricatured vision of femininity, and as cultural awareness grew, that vision felt increasingly tone-deaf. Eventually, the controversies piled up faster than discarded bras in a fitting room. Here's how the once untouchable Angel Empire got tangled in its own satin straps. Cultural appropriation faux pas. In 2012, Victoria's Secret made headlines for all the wrong reasons when model Karlie Kloss strutted down the runway in a Native American-inspired outfit, complete with a towering feathered war bonnet and turquoise jewelry. The segment, bizarrely framed as a Thanksgiving tribute, prompted an immediate chorus of "Really, VS?" from viewers and Native American groups. The company hastily apologized, conceding that the headdress had upset individuals, and promising to pull the look from all future broadcasts and marketing. In other words, this sexy Indian fantasy will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Kloss herself tweeted an apology for the offensive costume. It was a blatant example of cultural insensitivity, turning sacred symbols into titillating props. And it wouldn't be the last time Victoria's Secret was accused of being stuck in the past. From faux tribal lingerie to sexy geisha getups, the brand treated global cultures like just another theme night for its runway. Each misstep only underscored how wildly out of touch the so-called fantasy had become.
Model Salida Ebanks, who earned her wings in 2005, struggled to maintain the brand's strict standard of beauty.
Modeling for Victoria's Secret, there is a code you have to follow. There is expectation to maintain this size.
In an era of #LoveYourBody, untouched photos, and Dove's Real Beauty revolution, the VS message landed like a relic from another age. Outdated, elitist, and completely out of sync with the customers it claimed to celebrate. Body image backlash. Victoria's Secret long championed a very specific body ideal: tall, thin, and impossibly toned. That ideal went from quietly implied to loudly declared in 2014, when the company launched a campaign dubiously titled "The Perfect Body." The ad splashed the slogan across a lineup of 10 supermodels with washboard abs and visible ribs, all wearing the Body by Victoria bra, as if to declare that this was the gold standard of perfection. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Activists and consumers slammed the campaign as harmful and exclusionary. Nearly 30,000 people signed a petition demanding an apology. Social media erupted with criticism, while rival lingerie brands trolled the ad with slogans like "The perfect body is one you love." Eventually, Victoria's Secret swapped out the tagline for the gentler "A body for every body," effectively conceding that, who knew? Perhaps great bodies came in more than one size, but by then, the damage was done. The perfect body fiasco crystallized public resentment toward the brand's rigid beauty standards. It was as if Victoria's Secret had accidentally said the quiet part out loud, that only a narrow kind of body deserved to feel sexy. In an era of #LoveYourBody, untouched photos, and Dove's Real Beauty revolution, the VS message landed like a relic from another age, outdated, elitist, and completely out of sync with the customers it claimed to celebrate. Toxic culture and executive misconduct. Even as the brand's marketing drew fire, a deeper problem festered behind the scenes: the treatment of the women who wore the wings. In 2020, a New York Times expose revealed a toxic corporate culture led by powerful men. Chief among them was Ed Razek, the same exec who dismissed plus-size and trans models, who allegedly treated casting like his personal dating pool, made lewd comments, and even groped a model during 2018 show preparations.
And I went up to get more, and Ed stopped me. He stepped in front of me, berating me like, "Are you really gonna go eat more bread? Do you think you need to eat more bread? Do you think you should eat more bread?"
Multiple employees claimed Razek's behavior was an open secret, ignored or enabled by higher-ups. At the top, billionaire owner Leslie Wexner, accused of turning a blind eye to complaints in favor of profits. As the Times put it, the company fostered an entrenched culture of misogyny, bullying, and harassment. By 2019, even the Angels had had enough. Over 100 models signed an open letter demanding protection from sexual harassment and denouncing the company's toxic environment. The scandal shattered Victoria's Secret's glossy image, exposing the hypocrisy of a brand that peddled empowerment while degrading the very women it showcased. The Epstein entanglement. Just when it seemed things couldn't get worse, along came Jeffrey Epstein, yes, that Epstein, to deliver the final blow to Victoria's Secret's reputation. In 2019, it emerged that Epstein had long managed Leslie Wexner's personal fortune and had allegedly posed as a Victoria's Secret recruiter to lure young women into his predatory orbit. One model had even reported an attempted assault by Epstein decades earlier, a warning that reportedly reached Wexner, yet no meaningful action followed. That the architect of Victoria's Secret had entrusted a convicted sex offender with such access was, for many, the last straw. Wexner stepped down in early 2020, his exit shadowed by scandal. The Epstein connection linked Victoria's Secret to one of the most toxic names in modern memory. If the fashion show was the brand's shimmering fantasy, Epstein was the secret buried beneath it. A brand built on aspiration now reeked of exploitation, and the contrast couldn't have been more damning. With each controversy, Victoria's Secret's halo slipped a little further. What was once sold as an empowering sisterhood of angels now resembled an old boys club in lingerie. The brand's responses, belated apologies, half-hearted diversity nods, felt too little, too late. By 2019, the damage was done. Ratings for the fashion show were tanking, sales were stagnant, and think pieces flooded the internet asking, has Victoria's Secret lost its relevance? Short answer, yes. The brand that once dictated beauty standards to women was now being called out by them. And so in November 2019, Victoria's Secret did the once unthinkable. It canceled the fashion show, ending the Angels' reign with a whimper, not a bang. If this were a Greek tragedy, this would be the part where the fallen giant transforms. Victoria's Secret certainly tried. After canceling its fashion show and purging top executives, the brand launched a late-stage PR metamorphosis. Having long sold one narrow vision of female sexuality, the company now vowed to become the world's leading advocate for women. Yes, really.
Well, I hope to see you there.
Hey, Tanya.
That show was epic. I'm on my way. I'll see you
In 2021, it unveiled the VS Collective, ditching the Angels for a diverse new lineup. soccer star Megan Rapinoe, trans model Valentina Sampaio, plus-size model Paloma Elsesser, actress Priyanka Chopra Jonas, and more. A female-led advisory board and women's health initiatives were also introduced. Gone were the fantasy bras, replaced by corporate buzzwords like positive change, inclusion, and representation. It was a pivot so sharp it gave viewers whiplash. Many saw it as too little, too late. As one columnist put it, the feminist makeover was so late to the party and hypocritical that no one bought it. After years of glorifying one body type and objectifying women, the rebrand felt like performative wokeness in lace trim. The real test came in 2023 with the return of the fashion show, reimagined as a documentary-style world tour. No runway, no wings, no fantasy bra. Instead, Naomi Campbell opened with a poem about womanhood. Yes, a poem.
A poem. A Victorian poem.
Released on Amazon Prime, the film spotlighted women creators from Bogota to Tokyo, intercut with artsy vignettes and backstage footage. So, did it work? In a word, nope. The production felt lifeless, more like a TED Talk with bras than the bombastic shows of the past. At the NYC premiere, guests waited for something, anything to happen. Spoiler, it didn't. Models wandered through artsy sets, and even with Doja Cat performing, the event landed with a thud. Reviewers were blunt. It missed the mark. Gen Z called it boring, and one comment summed it up perfectly. What I got was something that could have been an email. Victoria's Secret's downfall isn't just the story of one brand. It's a parable of a broader cultural shift. How did the purveyor of America's sexiest fantasy become, well, kind of a joke? In short, the world changed and Victoria's Secret didn't, or only when it was too late. First, the brand's narrow definition of beauty became its biggest liability. For decades, it sold one image: ultra slim, busty, young, mostly white, the ultimate male fantasy, served up as something women should aspire to. That fantasy grew stale by the 2010s, as brands like Aerie, Third Love, and Savage X Fenty embraced real-life diversity, authenticity, and fun. In contrast, Victoria's Secret clung to its Barbie doll playbook. While the world craved realness, Victoria's perfection started to look painfully fake. Second, the scandals piled up. Ed Razek's exclusion of plus-size and trans models revealed what many suspected, that the brand was stuck in a fantasy world no one believed in anymore. Reports of toxic work culture, sexual harassment, and the Epstein connection sealed the deal. In an era where image is everything, Victoria's Secret became associated with everything icky. And that's a death sentence in modern retail.
They sentence you to death in the electric chair.
Finally, the brand's rebrand bombed, not because people rejected inclusion, but because they rejected this company doing it. After decades of pushing a narrow ideal, its sudden feminist glow-up felt hollow. As The Guardian put it, the failure had less to do with wokery than corporate hypocrisy. Victoria's Secret tried to replace one fantasy, the angel, with another, the empowered activist brand, and the result was a marketing identity crisis in silk. In the end, Victoria's Secret didn't just fall out of fashion, it fell out of touch. The brand that once told women how to be sexy got left behind when women decided to define that for themselves. By swinging wildly from exclusion to overcorrection, Victoria's Secret managed to please no one. Now it's stuck between nostalgia and reinvention, unsure whether to resurrect its angels or keep pretending to be enlightened. But the real damage is already done. What undid Victoria's Secret wasn't a lack of sexiness. It was the ugly truth behind the fantasy. Victoria's not-so-secret downfall is now part of pop culture lore, a fitting end for a fantasy that, in the end, nobody could fully buy into anymore. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing for more stories about how once iconic brands lost their shine.